Hi guys! In today's video, I'm going to be doing an adding too much to slime video, and this is probably the most colourful version of this I have done, and I'm starting off with too many sprinkles. I decided to do this with sprinkles instead of different shapes just because then it would pack really tightly together and become super crunchy, and that's exactly what this did. But I found that when I first added the sprinkles, they just did not want to stick into the slime. I think maybe because the slime was really thick and it wasn't a super sticky one, and so at first it kind of gave the slime a putty texture until I started adding more sprinkles, and then it just became so crunchy. It kind of looked like the topping of a cake. You know when you kind of have icing on something and then you roll it in sprinkles? It was just covered so crunchy. And look at the inflation on this. It went to about 24 ounces. I don't know about you guys, but I really struggle with making water slime, so when I added my clear glue, I was like, what am I going to do with this? And one of my subscribers recommended adding warm water because this helps melt down the glue. And as you can see, this mixes in really well, and when I started adding my activator, it pulled away very quickly. And as you can see, it's a bit of a thin consistency just because the water's warm. So I recommend leaving this for probably about an hour, unless you're using hot water, and then I don't recommend testing it with your hands, and probably leave it for about 2 hours. But after that, it should have bubbles on the top and then reveal this perfect clear slime underneath, and as you can see, this is just gorgeous. It isn't bubbly at all, which is my favorite thing about water slimes. Next up, we have adding too much toothpaste into slime, and I was so excited to try this because I know how thick toothpaste is, and I was really curious to see what it would do to my mixture. So I added 3 tubes, and I found this made the mixture so thick, and when I was mixing it in, I was just so excited for the outcome, and when I started activating it, it looked like it was about to become so thick, until I added my second batch of activator, and I think the water in the borax solution must have just acted like, I don't know, it just made it into toothpaste. That's the only way to describe it, because it started frothing up, becoming lumpy, and then all of a sudden it went to liquid, and it wouldn't activate no matter how much activator was put in there. I decided to then move on to my next mixture, which is adding too much food dye into slime, and I added about 2 bottles worth. It doesn't look like very much on camera, but it was so much, and it had a really weird smell to it. That was the first thing I noticed. With adding loads, it changes the scent. It overpowers any scent I added in, and as you can see, this just becomes kind of putty-like, and because so much colour's added in, it actually looks like an opaque slime. I actually really like the end result. I just think the one thing about it is the weird scent. When I was cooking the other day, I was using foil and I was looking at it like, this looks like the type of stuff I would add into slime, so I decided to add it in, kind of in the place of a gold leaf, I would say, and this was so tough on my slime. As you can see, it kind of adds some crunch in. It was very fun to push in. It had like a kind of crinkly sound, but once it was actually in, it didn't really change the texture at all. The slime stayed the exact same, it just had loads of crunched up bits of tin foil, and because the tin foil, I don't know if it like made it colder, but it just made it super putty-like, which obviously makes it rubbery, so I let it melt down for a week, and this was actually really fun to play with. It's really pretty in there. As you can see, it's gorgeous, but it just doesn't feel very nice in your hands with a thick slime, so I definitely recommend adding this into a sticky one if you want to try this. Next up, we have adding too much Daiso into clear slime, and this is my favorite thing to do because I love Daiso cubes and I love clear slime, and mixing them together makes a really sizzly slime normally. So when I added my first cube, it did exactly that. It became super sizzly. So I added 5 more cubes and about 8 ounces worth of slime, and when I mixed it all together, let me tell you, this became so thick, so airy, and it just created a mountain of slime. It probably made about, I would say, 12 slime pots, and as you can see, it just looks super doughy and it was really fun to play with. my last adding too much video, I added too much floral foam that was dry, and today's video is going to be adding too much wet floral foam, and I decided to add this to a pigment slime just to see if it would do anything pretty. And this was really fun to add on top because this was a cylinder shape and it kind of just like fell like a waterfall, and then when you push down, as you can see, all the water like seeps out from different parts of the slime, and it just looks so cool. And with it being wet, it definitely mixes in a lot easier. This is actually really fun. It was very hard to mix in, but I was just really curious to see what the result would be, and this was actually really cool because as you can see, it's really slimy at first, and then you leave it for 5 minutes, and for some reason the slime gets absorbed. This isn't sticky, it's just really wet. Someone told me that when you add blue tack to clear slime, it becomes like a clay, and let me tell you, that person was lying. As you can see here, this does not mix in at all. It actually made my slime so stiff, so I took it out, popped it in the microwave, and then this didn't even melt. As you can see, it's still really tough. I did find that it stretched out a bit, so I could eventually mix it in, but this does not do anything good for your slime. Do not waste your blue tack and do not waste your slime on this. It's just such a rubbish method. I really did not like it. As you can see, it became like a putty, and then after a few weeks it became nicer, but all the kind of blue tack sunk to the bottom, so it wasn't the blue tack that was making it nice. Next up, we're going to be adding too much Holo, and I did this mainly because I love Holo, but it's actually really hard to film in studio lights. It only works under like a phone light or in the sun. After adding my normal amount of glitter, as you can see, it's super pigmented, gorgeous, and it just feels like a normal slime. It falls really prettily as well. So the first thing I was looking out for when I was adding my pigment in was to see if it would change the texture, and I did find that this changed the texture a lot. So at first it just made it super kind of putty-like, I would say, but then all the glitter that was like excess sunk to the bottom, and as you can see, it just makes the slime really gritty. Like, this does not feel like a clear slime. It feels like a textured slime that kind of feels like sandpaper, I would say. It's just not very nice. Everyone on Instagram has been using these alphabet cues recently, so I decided to add some of my own to see what would happen, and this became so crunchy from the go. As you can see, it just feels like a normal kind of beaded slime. I would say it's most similar to like a fishbowl sound, but more harsh because the beads aren't rounded. So when I added more in, I wasn't expecting it to hold so much. I added about 3 packs worth of these, so probably about like 750 grams of this, and as you can see, it still sticks in. It doesn't have much slime in between it, but it gives really good crunches. I had such high hopes of Play-Doh slime, and I really hoped that it was going to be like adding clay into slime because I love the smell of Play-Doh. It would just mean that I wouldn't have to scent my slimes anymore. And when I mixed this in at first, it looked really cool. And then I noticed the slime was melting a bit, and the clay just wasn't mixing in. I don't even know if Play-Doh is, yeah, Play-Doh clay, Play-Doh dough, Play-Doh, it's dough, isn't it? It looks cool with the colors, but it's really lumpy, and no matter how much activator you have, it just keeps melting. So I decided to leave this for 5 minutes, and you see what happens? It's just liquid. It's just lumpy liquid, so don't waste your Play-Doh, kids. Next up, we're going to be adding too many Orbeez, and I just wanted to try this out because I've never added Orbeez into slime. Let me start off by saying this is the messiest tutorial I have ever done in my life. When I was mixing in, the beads would bounce and then they bounce and bounce and bounce, so all you'd hear was tapping when you were filming, and it was so stressful. But the slime itself was actually really fun. It had a really nice texture to it. It definitely made it a bit sticky just because of the water in it, I guess, but when you're hoovering up the beads, it's kind of like Hungry Hippos and eating the marbles, so it's really fun. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any special requests for videos, do leave them in the comments. I read all of the comments, seriously, every single day I read them, and I write down all of your ideas if you ever want me to do special stuff. And I'm also planning on doing less reviews and also less of these videos and trying to introduce new content and upload kind of every week, if not twice a week from now on. I'm going to try and make a massive effort. Thank you guys for being so patient with me and also watching this video, and I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week.